main thing about to understand about spiritual unity is that it considers that we are a spirit, yeah, for want of a definition, of a label. We are a spirit, a spiritual being that is inhabiting this physical dimension, having a body, and so forth. Now, so far so good. Yeah, we've all heard that many times from many different sources. Nothing unique, but it's then the thing is that, well, if that's the case, how do we remember? How do we recognize the quality and the nature of ourselves as that spiritual being? Because as we know, we don't. We seem to go into amnesia. We forget, particularly because of our upbringing and conditioning. We are often made to forget our spiritual origin, but also it's just the nature of being in a physical body, and that because of that, through the senses, we identify with our physical nature, and then more with our personality, egoic nature, if you like, and then very rarely go beyond. And religion is not, sometimes tries to explain something about that, but it doesn't necessarily say to you how to become that, in that sense, directly. And I'm talking about religion, sort of the things that are part of our cultures. And then, so the aim is to really identify with your spirit. And that's the aim of this kind of type of spiritual unity, is to recognize and identify with your spirit. So what does that mean? That means by identifying with your spirit, by becoming and letting that you become, return, if you like, to your true nature, is that your personality is transformed. It no longer just operates on a very minimal information, It sort of like allows the full spectrum of who we are to come into our reality. So we can then operate as the spiritual being that we truly are, that we are that spiritual being. And when we manage to operate that as a spiritual being, then of course, then you get like your, in all the spiritual scriptures and teachings and methods of, then you can experience real sense of well-being, of peace. Your true nature can come forth. You're loving, kind, benevolent, empathic, compassionate, caring, but also strong, understanding, resolve, confident, of power. Your own inner power can also come through. So you start to live in your true spiritual authority, and in your spiritual understanding and knowingness. As the Sufis say, it's not that your brain knows everything because it's limited. How can it know everything? But it has the capacity of knowingness, that everything that needs to be known in any given moment will become known, will intuitively or inspirationally or through some kind of revelation becomes known, because that's the consciousness of spirits, is knowingness. Everything is, it's like, it's what we are trying to replicate with as artificial intelligence, a computer that has all the information. So a spirit has already all the information, but we can only access that information at the capacity that we make an attempt to connect with that, and to the level we engage with that information, on a spiritual level. So it's not about, how can I get richer, faster, where it's, by through some spiritual, that's not the spiritual reality. It's not about wealth. and power and fame and fortune and celebrity. So yeah, you're not going to get access to do that. And a lot of people say that, oh yeah, spiritual prosperity, abundance, prestige, yeah, that's a slight corruption of what true spiritual reality is, which is about beingness, knowingness, and lovingness, the capacity for infinite compassion and love, for infinite understanding, infinite goodness and presence of all that, and sort of that spiritual authority as well, the confidence and self-assuredness and self-worth that can only come by knowing you are that infinite eternal being at source. And that's what it's all based. That's what spiritual unity is based on. It's based on, and that each teacher who gets closer to that realization then hands it down, hopefully, to others. And that's what happened with my teacher. I mean, in his case, he was really incredibly realized, far more than above than I would ever hope to be. But that's because some individuals are, some beings are like that, and some are not. But he was definitely somebody who had this capacity just to be in his presence, and the whole room will just go into like deepest of deep meditations, and you would sit there and just be overwhelmed by feelings of unity, of bliss, of a sense of safety, and of healing, as if like liquid was flowing through your body, healing every single cell, and anointing you with this spiritual power and kindness. And just you walk out of these classes transformed, literally, for the rest of the evening. We were all like in an exalted, sublime state of consciousness with an open heart and joy, and go to the cafe, and it would be laughter and mirth and celebration and just this freedom. It just used to just boom, because we'd all been immersed in the presence of this incredible energy. I can't even describe it unless you were there. I can't even say how incredible that was. You'd literally walk in the class one way, physically, in that little basement room we used to congregate for over, for nearly all the 20 years I worked with him. And you'd walk out and you would be literally feeling you were a spiritual being. Now, I'm not saying that anything near that. That's what the results of doing these groups are about. But that's what they're based on that experience, that actually, once we have that, when we get closer to those experiences, our life on earth changes, because we can always know, actually, whatever is going on, I know my true nature. And that's all I need to do, is spend time to connect to my true nature, to my spiritual nature. And that will feed me, nurture me, and incrementally, instill within me a sense of who I really am. And I'm talking about, now a process that is decades long for sure, but it starts somewhere. And it goes on ad infinitum, I would imagine. And we all start for some point. I mean, and we all join these classes having done, a real amount of work on ourselves already. I mean, I know no one here is a novice. As a rule, all of you are mature individuals, but also spiritually mature individuals. So, then my hope is that we make that, use it this way to expedite that, to enhance that, to deepen that, and then to the point that you find useful. And I'm sure that's the key of what In Spirit Way unity is about. And and the meditations are there, of course, to try to deepen into that. But the other practices that we do, like we will repeat today, is little ways of how to connect with your spirit during the day when you can't sit down and meditate. But how can you, kind of like make that switch? Okay, I'm confronted with something. I'm facing something. I've heard some terrible news. I'm really worried about my financial situation, etc., etc., etc. The whole litany of stuff we all confronting day to day. And then you go, oh, I need some strength. I need something in me not to be overwhelmed by that. Or if I am overwhelmed by that, how to help me lift me out of that in a way that I'm no longer feeling a victim of life, but knowing that I am here to exercise my spiritual, ultimately, qualities until life responds to that. Does that make sense? I know words are so hard to convey. Thank you. I always feel I'm doing very poorly in trying to explain things. Yeah. But, because ultimately it's the experience, I'm just hoping that we do things that you have this experience, and the experience itself is what takes you there. And the beauty of also what we did with my teacher Chan, he said, I am the mouthpiece. I am not, we have no middle, there's no middleman in this path. In this way, the middleman is not of import. The teacher is a teacher, but a mentor, a facilitator, but he's not the guru, the guru, the master is inside. The heart is the master. And that's what I was saying before, when we were talking about the fire element, remember? And I was saying in the Chinese, the fire element is double. So it's repeated twice in the system, in nature, and in ourselves. So we've got 4 fire element channels rather than 2, like all the other elements. So only have 2 channels, a yin and a yang one. The fire has 2 yin and 2 yang. Why? Because one of the yin and one of the yang is to do with the almost numinous, pure spiritual nature of our being, the spirit that is there as a presence, and is called the Lord Sovereign Master. He that part of us is called the Heart Master, the Heart Spirit, or the numinous, or this sort of what's called the radiant spirit, the radiant being a word the Chinese really love, the radiant spirit. The radiant spirit is in our heart, so it's the heart spirit, and it operates as the heart master. So one channel is the heart as the Lord, as the numinous sovereign Lord, and the other channel is the heart as master, which is how the heart spirit operates in the world and galvanizes you and rules you. Slowly, more and more rules you, rules the ego, rules the body and the consciousness, so that we operate under the jurisdiction and guidance and basically, ultimately, the directiveness of a heart master, until we are fully surrendered to a heart master, where our personal will is completely in service to the heart will of our spirit. And when that happens, that for the Chinese, that's illumination, that's enlightenment. It's not a sudden state of no, it's just that we finally said yes, a full yes to our spirit. Yes, you take control. I don't know. What do I know? I know nothing. You know, and I trust you. I have faith. And of course, that process takes time. It's not in our human nature to trust. So it takes time to really surrender and trust. Yeah, so that's the thing. So here, as Chan said, I'm not your master. I'm your guide. I'm your mentor. I'm your helper. I facilitate you. I teach you stuff because, of course, I know stuff. I've been there. I'm handing on the knowledge and my experiences. But ultimately, the master is within. And that's another very important, distinct quality about heart. This spirit, the spiritual way of working with the heart. You know, which is kind of quite new, actually. I think that traditionally one had your guru, one had your sheikh. Once you surrendered to the sheikh in the Sufi terms, you surrendered to the master in the Zen or Taoist terms, you surrendered to the teacher, you surrendered to the priest, you surrendered to whatever, to your guru in the Hindu tradition, you know. But this is different. This is now saying, no, now as human beings, we take charge of that. We are mature enough to now take that authority for ourselves and claim that authority because the teacher is within, you know. And what I say, I'm just a mouthpiece. I say some things. Some of that will be useful, and some of it will not. As Chan said, the stuff I say to you is useful. Great. The stuff that doesn't, just chuck it away. You know, it's not. You know, there's nothing holy about it. You know, I say things to help you. If it doesn't, ignore it. You know, if I miss the mark, I've missed the mark. And that was very liberating too, because, you know, we could love him and accept him and trust. And also, know, we had permission to say, "Oof, I don't know about that. I don't know if that applies to me." Of course, after many years with him, I realized everything he said actually made sense and applied. But in the early days, it was like, what? You know, and it was like, fine, okay, I don't have to try to take that on board. It doesn't make me wrong for not getting it, you know, or, you know, it's not maybe meant for my ears, you know, it's maybe meant for somebody else's. So that's the system. And that's why I think it's safe for everyone here to partake of it, because you're not giving any responsibility or authority to me. You know, I'm not asking for any of that either. You know, you're just trying to claim it from your inner source. Yeah, so that's the context of what we're doing, of what we're doing.